The reality is that Pam Bondi has been dodging transparency for months. Initially, she claimed there were no additional documents worth releasing. Now, she's finally admitting to and unveiling hundreds of thousands of pages, but it's far from complete, riddled with excessive redactions that obscure key details. This has ignited a massive political uproar in Washington surrounding the Epstein files. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats alike, are slamming the Justice Department for stonewalling evidence and blowing past a deadline set by Congress. Democratic Congressman Khanna and Republican Congressman Massie are now openly talking about holding Attorney General Pam Bondi in contempt after the DOJ failed to deliver all required Epstein-related materials by the mandated Friday cutoff. Okay, so you've probably caught wind of the sensational headlines: Trump staring down a jail threat, Congress unleashing impeachment documents, the president's on the brink of prison, his whole administration is crumbling. It's total chaos, right? But hold on, before we dive deeper, let's keep it real. Mainstream media has lost a lot of credibility these days. That's exactly why we created Pump Politics, to deliver authentic stories, genuine context, and zero corporate bias. If you're eager to get ahead of the curve on news, sign up for our free newsletter. We'll drop the real deal right into your inbox daily. Just hit the link in the description to subscribe. And if you simply want to back our mission, come join the crew. Be among those who truly value truth-seeking. All right, back to the breakdown. They're floating ideas about impeachment processes, contempt charges, and even criminal referrals for obstruction against DOJ personnel. Do you view these warnings as credible and calls for real accountability? On CBS's Face the Nation, Massie emphasized that the quickest path to justice for Epstein's victims lies in leveraging inherent contempt against the Attorney General. He stressed that Congress needs to step up boldly if the department keeps dragging its feet on disclosures. This backlash comes hot on the heels of the DOJ's partial dump of thousands of Epstein documents last Friday. While a hefty batch was made public, Khanna and Massie argue that crucial pieces mandated by the Epstein Files Transparency Act are absent. Here's the key takeaway. Trump isn't personally facing an immediate jail sentence. No handcuffs tomorrow morning. But there's a legitimate, unfolding crisis here, and it's no joke. Congress has indeed lodged impeachment resolutions against Trump multiple times in 2025, charging him with obstruction of justice, abuse of power, and even tyranny, all officially documented in the system. Now, there's a new twist. Two congressional figures, Representative Khanna, a Democrat from California, and Representative Massie, a Republican from Kentucky, are crafting fresh documents, impeachment resolutions and contempt motions aimed at Trump's Attorney General, Pam Bondi. The reason? She's flouting the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a bill Congress enacted and Trump himself endorsed, which demanded the full unveiling of Epstein documents within 30 days. Instead, Bondi's DOJ trickled out perhaps 1% of the material, heavily censored, well beyond the deadline. Now, Congress is buzzing about impeachment and contempt. Can you wrap your head around this? A cross-party duo, Democrat and Republican, collaborating to prepare impeachment and inherent contempt documents against the AG. They're mulling over daily fines for delays and even jail time if she persists in ignoring Congress. And it's not limited to lawmakers. A federal judge, Chief Judge James Boasberg, has determined probable cause to charge Trump administration officials with criminal contempt for disregarding his court directive on deportation flights. Consider that, a judge affirming grounds for criminal contempt. That's the initial move toward genuine incarceration, penalties, or repercussions for Trump aides who thumb their noses at judicial mandates. On one flank, you've got Congress lodging impeachment docs against Trump, prepping new ones for Bondi, and debating fines or jail for breaching the Epstein law. On the other, federal courts are establishing probable cause for contempt in deportation matters, paving the way for sanctions or jail against officials defying the bench. It's a pincer movement, legislative and judicial pressures converging. To clarify, the jail risk isn't directly on Trump yet. It's targeting his subordinates, Bondi over Epstein docs, immigration enforcers over court defiance. But when your top brass faces potential lockup, when your AG could be impeached, when judges flag probable cause for contempt, it heaps immense strain on the commander-in-chief. If Bondi falls due to Epstein cover-ups, what does that imply about Trump's involvement in concealment? If deportation staffers get hit with contempt, what about the directives from the Oval Office that spurred the violations? The peril to his circle translates to political and legal heat on him. Moreover, the impeachment filings against Trump are tangible. Res. 353, submitted in April, outlines 7 articles: obstruction, congressional power grabs, trade abuses, First Amendment breaches, bribery, corruption, and tyranny, all etched in congressional annals. Another in December targeted Trump for proposing executions of lawmakers and eroding judicial autonomy via social media assaults. Republicans quashed it, but its filing and floor vote underscore the relentless push. So, we're dealing with a scenario where Trump evades personal jail for now, but his leadership is battered from various angles: impeachment docs, contempt initiatives, court rulings that pose authentic jail risks to his admin and constrict him tightly. That's the narrative. Not Trump behind bars imminently, but his cadre in rising legal crosshairs. Congress gearing up papers that might yield fines or jail for lawbreaking. Courts assembling contempt cases that could result in penalties or incarceration for order defiance. All forging a compressive grip around his tenure. That's what we'll unpack today: the impeachment resolutions Congress has tabled against Trump, the emerging impeachment and contempt docs for Bondi, the judicial contempt verdicts on deportations, and how this ensemble generates bona fide jail scenarios for Trump's inner sanctum, ultimately pressuring the man at the top. Let's chronologize these impeachment submissions and contempt efforts, as the specifics reveal the intensifying legal bind. Starting April 28, 2025, Res. 353 hits the House floor, seeking to impeach Donald John Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors. It enumerates 7 articles: obstruction of justice first, then usurping Congress's funding authority, abusing trade levers, infringing on free speech, establishing illicit offices, engaging in bribery and graft, and committing tyranny. 7 grave accusations formally levied against the incumbent president, including tyranny, no exaggeration, that's straight from the congressional text. Around then, Michigan Democrat Sri Thanadar lodged his own articles, mirroring 7 counts like unlawful expulsions, tariff misuses, journalist assaults, tyrannical excesses, and amassing unbridled power, all official indictments against Trump. Thus, multiple impeachment bids, varied article sets, all lodged early in his second stint, all alleging egregious power abuses and legal infractions, all preserved in records. Yet, with GOP House control, these get stymied, shelved, deprived of substantive debates or votes, just procedural terminations sidestepping merit assessments. Fast forward to December 11th, another impeachment push, spearheaded by Representative Al Green, faulting Trump for advocating congressional executions, judicial undermining through online barbs, fomenting violence and bigotry, and endangering democracy. This one advanced to a pseudo-vote. Republicans motioned to table it, killing it sans substance debate, and it passed. All GOP yeah, plus 23 Dems opposing progression. So, it fizzled. But its floor appearance, the vote itself, signals persistent tension. Impeachment isn't a flash, it's a recurring specter. Democrats recurrently assert this president's deeds merit ouster, keeping impeachment alive as a perpetual menace. Now, shifting to the Epstein files debacle, this is where the plot thickens and jail prospects solidify. On November 19, 2025, Congress enacts H.R. 4405, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, with bipartisan backing. It compels the DOJ to disclose all Epstein-linked records within 30 days, total openness, every scrap in their possession. Trump inks it, touting his commitment to clarity, insisting on full exposure. Then, his AG, Pam Bondi, promptly flouts it. December 19 arrives, the 30-day mark, and DOJ unveils a sliver, maybe 1%, densely blacked out, fragmentary, omitting anticipated items like at least one Trump image that belonged in the batch, utterly deficient against the statute's demands. Congress erupts, as this isn't advisory. It's binding law, legislated, precedentially approved, yet Trump's DOJ disregards it, dribbling out minimal redacted content, pleading for extensions despite the explicit timeline. The Hill reports on December 19 that Representative Khanna flagged potential impeachment, noting lawmakers are mulling ousting DOJ figures defying the Epstein mandate, deeming this statutory breach ripe for impeachment triggers. Then, NBC News airs a December 21 chat with Khanna and Massie, Escalating rhetoric. Beyond impeachment, they're eyeing inherent contempt, Congress's self-enforcement tool to penalize defiance, possibly incarcerating non-compliers. Rare, grave, but constitutional. Khanna and Massie reveal they're weighing daily fines for Bondi's procrastination, contempt hearings. Fortune details their drafting of impeachment articles and inherent contempt motions against her. Picture it, cross-aisle lawmakers, DEM and GOP, jointly authoring docs that could impeach or contempt the AG, levy daily penalties till compliance, or jail her for ongoing refusal. Not abstract, active composition, groundwork for official moves. Congress priming its heaviest artillery against Trump's AG for snubbing a self-signed law. The Epstein hook amplifies volatility. Public curiosity peaks on concealed names, ties, secrets. Bondi's scant, tardy, censored release reeks of suppression. Axios notes a missing Trump photo. Time highlights survivor and lawmaker critiques of incompleteness. ABC logs Dems probing legal recourses post-DOJ shortfall. Fury spans parties. Suspicion of Bondi obfuscation pervades. Congress gears for response. Impeachment docs, contempt bids, fines, potential jail, all for non-adherence to the transparency edict Trump endorsed. That's tangible peril, imminent fallout brewing. Now, on to the deportation contempt facet. This forms the judicial clamp in the vice. April 16, 2025. Chief Judge James Boasberg drops a bombshell ruling, ascertaining probable cause to deem Trump admin defendants in criminal contempt for deliberate order flouting. Context: Trump invokes the Alien Enemies Act for select deportations. Boasberg halts some, mandating due process pre-flight. Trump's crew ignores, expelling individuals pre-court intervention, pre-challenge hearings, blatant judicial defiance. Boasberg's verdict labels it willful neglect, court contempt. He affirms probable cause for criminal pursuit, kickstarting paths to fines, sanctions, or jail for violators. Res. 415, an impeachment filing, cites Boasberg's decree, leveraging it for charges, positing Trump's court scorn and order defiance as impeachable. Boasberg amplifies, if executives deport sans repercussion by outpacing courts, no safeguard against targeting citizens or foes. A judge cautioning that such contempt risks politicized purges, beyond migration, its rule of law bedrock, judicial checks on executive order enforceability. His probable cause signals evidential sufficiency for contempt advancement, potentially yielding penalties or incarceration for persistent defiance. The New York Times covers DOJ efforts to stall the inquiry, yet it lingers active, exposing deportation actors continually. Thus, legislative drafts on Epstein contempt, judicial bills on deportation contempt, dual arenas birthing jail perils for Trump's regime. The December 11 impeachment vote, though thwarted, underscores dynamics. Republicans won't green-light impeachment, they'll smother floor-reaching resolutions. Votes lack for conviction. But Newsweek and Politico note its import. DEM persistence, ongoing impeachment heat sans removal, recurrent filings inflicting political wounds procedurally. Contempt diverges. No need for congressional tallies. If Boasberg's probe yields criminal guilt, he can penalize or jail sans GOP nod. Inherent contempt against Bondi. Congress self-enforces, bypassing courts, hearings, contempt rulings, fines, capital detention possible. Distinct threshold, potentially viable. Okay, dissecting this bicameral squeeze and why incarceration looms real, albeit not precedentially immediate, ramifications colossal. First, legislative-judicial interplay, Congress authoring impeachment contempt, threatening penalties jail for Epstein breach, one vector. Judiciary ascertaining criminal contempt probable cause on deportations, forging sanctioned jail paths, another. Autonomous yet concurrent, amplifying admin vulnerability, can't dismiss one amid the other's assault. Trump may obstruct Congress via GOP shields, but judicial edicts resist similarly. Judges enforce via system sans partisan veto. Second, Bondi vulnerability quandary. Should Congress enact impeachment inherent contempt, fining her daily for Epstein non-compliance, advancing toward jail, Trump faces dilemma. Bondi's defiance aligns with White House tactics. Partial redacted release isn't solo. its Oval orchestrated Epstein management. She's executor. Consequences for her equate fallout for Trump's bidding. Let her absorb. Pardon if criminally contemned. Dismiss for detachment. All suboptimal. Absorption signals frailty. Pardon wreaks concealment. Dismissal scapegoats. Trump's cornered by self-devised non-compliance. Third, Khanna Massie bipartisanship weight. DEM GOP tandem on impeachment contempt docs rare, salient, transcends partisanship. Massie's conservative, no reflexive anti-Trumper, yet allies with Khanna on flagrant Epstein violation, bipartisan transparency demand. This unity bolsters credibility, hampers partisan dismissal, heightens action likelihood. Bipartisan accord amps pressure, harder spin, ignore, politically riskier. Fourth, inherent contempt potency. Obscure to most, Congress's self-punitive authority for defiance, fining jailing sans external aid. Seldom invoked, contentious, yet valid. No court requisite, autonomous hearings, rulings, penalties, even detention. Khanna Massie drafting, priming this, grave. Activation, daily Bondi fines. Modern unprecedented, constitutional clash. Jail prospect concretizes, not vague, but feasible if file withholding endures. Fifth, Boasberg's contempt gravity. Judicial probable cause for criminal contempt isn't flippant, evidentially grounded accusation. He deems admin willfully spurned order, preemptively deported to evade judiciary, evinced court disdain, treated mandates optionally. His citizen targeting alert? Judicial red flag on authoritarian drift. Executive unbound by rulings, risking politicized abuses. Transcends immigration. Judicial executive equilibrium, order sanctity, legal framework integrity. Probable cause greenlights contempt progression to sanctions fines jail for defiance. Sixth, appeals pause transience. Yes, 3-judge panel halts Boasberg's inquiry temporarily amid litigation, not eternally, not absolved, mere suspension. Contempt spectre persists, poised for revival post-appeals. Defiers aren't exonerated, deferred. Yield sustained tension, ambiguity, awareness of reactivation. Limbo, not liberation, repercussions loom. Seventh, defiance motif issue. Trump's apparatus snubs Congress on Epstein, courts on deportations, systemic other branch contempt, optionalizing obligations. Pattern provokes intensification. When compliance falters, branches deploy extrema. Congress legislates. DOJ ignores. Courts decree. Officials defy. Escalation inevitable for authority preservation. Contempt invocation. Fine, jail threats. Jail emerges from Trump's defiance ethos. Epstein compliance averts contempt. Order adherence nulls criminal findings. Self-generated fallout. Eighth, impeachment accrual. 2025's manifold resolutions. H. Res. 353 April. Thanadar articles. Greens December. All quashed, yet stack in archives. Accumulation documents chronic Trump conduct qualms. Multiple lawmakers recurrently deeming removal worthy, furnishing future reference for scholars prosecutors. Failed bids still harm. Headlines. Discourse on fitness. Voter accountability prompts. Election perception molding. Recurrent lodgings pressure sans conviction. Wound politically via procedure. Ninth, 2026 ramifications. Impeachments, contempts, rulings, defiances fuel midterm storyline, arm Democrats, query Trump's law reverence. If Bondi contempt materializes pre-November 2026, or admin criminal contempt, campaign dynamite, literal branch held contempt. Dems campaign on lawlessness, cite findings as evidence, quiz voters on jail-facing team presidency. GOP defends, justify Bondi non-compliance, order defiance, findings invalidity, arduous stance. 10th, forward trajectory quandary, whither? Khanna Massie draft impeachment contempt. Boasberg inquiry paused. Viable. More impeachments likely. Congress inherent contempt activation. Bondi daily fined till full Epstein dump. Deportation actors criminally charged. Jail actualization. Escalation will present. DEM frustration. Select GOP ire. Judicial assertion. Mechanisms extant. Query activation resolve. hinged on defiance persistence. Bondi withholding amps inherent pressure. Deportation defiance boosts criminal likelihood. Defiance escalation begets branch escalation. Thus, jail isn't fanciful, active, docs drafted, rulings issued, powers probed. Sole uncertainties: timing, follow-through, resolve. So, summing, Trump evades personal formal jail now, but admin dual squeezed. Congress drafts Bondi impeachment inherent contempt. Courts affirm deportation criminal contempt probable cause. Trump impeachments filed 2025 wide, tyranny, obstruction, abuse, got blocked, merit unaddressed, yet allegation documenting. Fresh arena, Khanna Massie prepping Bondi action, delay fines, jail discourse for defiance, formal docs authoring. Meanwhile, Boasberg's finding lingers, suspended not voided, resumable, jeopardy for order-defying officials towards sanctions a jail on persistence. Dual clamp, Congress courts advancing jail-inclusive consequences, admin legal vulnerability, defiance responsive escalation. Jail real, not Trumpian, immediate, but team-targeted, Bondi, deportation staff. Inner circle jail, AG impeachment contempt, judicial probable cause, crushes precedentially. Trump's defiance backfires, evoking avoided escalation, branch power activation, concretizing jail threats. Impeachment filed. Contempt drafted. Rulings rendered. Consequence apparatuses ready. Query: political activation resolve. Threat to reality shift. That's narrative, not imminent Trump jail, but congressional judicial presidency assault. Branches forging team jail potentials. Vulnerabilities squeezing sands direct threat. Papers lodged, powers prepped, findings set, pressure mounting, president's cadre risks finds jail for law defiance. Jail threat, active, real, intensifying. In this segment, we delve deeper into the bipartisan dynamics and the rarely invoked inherent contempt mechanism, exploring how they elevate the stakes in this political drama. The collaboration between Khanna and Massie exemplifies a rare moment of unity in a polarized Congress. Khanna, a progressive Democrat known for his tech policy expertise and foreign affairs scrutiny, pairs with Massie, a libertarian-leaning Republican often critical of government overreach. Their joint effort on drafting impeachment and contempt documents against Bondi underscores the perceived severity of the DOJ's noncompliance. This isn't mere grandstanding. It's a calculated move to enforce a law that enjoyed broad support. The Epstein Files Transparency Act wasn't a partisan bill. It passed with votes from both sides, reflecting a collective demand for accountability in one of the most notorious scandals involving power and abuse. What makes this partnership potent is its ability to transcend typical party lines. In an era where bipartisanship is scarce, such alliances lend legitimacy to the accusations. Trump and his allies can't easily label this as a Democrat witch hunt when a Republican like Massie is co-authoring the papers. Massie, who has previously clashed with his own party on issues like surveillance and spending, brings credibility among conservatives who value transparency. This dynamic forces the administration to confront the issue on its merits rather than through partisan deflection. Now, let's unpack inherent contempt, a constitutional tool that's gathering dust but could be dusted off here. Unlike civil or criminal contempt, which involve courts, inherent contempt allows Congress to act unilaterally. Rooted in the Constitution's implied powers, it enables the House or Senate to detain individuals who obstruct their proceedings. Historically, it was used in the 19th century. The last instance was in 1934. But its rarity doesn't diminish its validity. If invoked, Congress could hold a hearing, vote to find Bondi in contempt, and impose fines, say, $10,000 per day of delay, or even order the sergeant-at-arms to arrest her. Imagine the spectacle. The Attorney General potentially hauled before Congress or fined escalating amounts until full Epstein files are released. This isn't about removal like impeachment, it's enforcement. Khanna and Massie have signaled they're exploring this precisely because traditional routes, like referring to courts, might be too slow or diluted by DOJ influence. The bipartisan nature amplifies the chances of success. It could garner enough GOP support to pass a contempt resolution, especially if more Republicans grow frustrated with perceived cover-ups. Media coverage has amplified this threat. Outlets like Fortune and NBC have detailed the drafting process, quoting sources close to the lawmakers. This public scrutiny adds pressure, making it harder for Bondi to continue stonewalling without consequences. Survivors of Epstein's network, advocacy groups, and even some Trump critics within the GOP are voicing support for full disclosure, further isolating the administration. Shifting to the broader implications for Trump's strategy, this episode reveals cracks in his approach to governance. By signing the Transparency Act only to have his DOJ undermine it, Trump appears duplicitous. Was the signing mere theater? The missing Trump photo, as reported by Axios, fuels speculation. Is the administration protecting specific individuals, including the president? This erodes public trust and invites more scrutiny. Moreover, the Epstein saga intersects with Trump's past associations. While not directly implicated in crimes, his name has surfaced in Epstein contexts, raising questions about what's being hidden. Bondi's initial denial of further documents, followed by a partial release, suggests a pattern of obfuscation that could backfire legally and politically. In parallel, the deportation contempt case under Boasberg highlights judicial impatience with executive overreach. The Alien Enemies Act invocation was controversial from the start, seen by critics as a tool for mass expulsions without due process. Boasberg's ruling isn't isolated. It echoes broader concerns about Trump's immigration policies, which have drawn lawsuits since his first term. The probable cause finding is a procedural milestone. It means evidence of willful defiance exists, documents showing officials proceeded with flights despite the order. If the appeals panel lifts the pause, hearings could resume, leading to testimony from DOJ and DHS officials. Potential outcomes include monetary fines, but in egregious cases, short jail terms to coerce compliance. This judicial track operates independently of Congress, creating a multifaceted threat. Trump can't control judges like he might influence GOP lawmakers. Boasberg's stark warning about targeting citizens resonates in a politically charged climate where fears of authoritarianism linger post-2020 election disputes. Patterns of defiance across issues, Epstein, deportations, suggest a systemic issue. Trump's administration seems to view interbranch checks as obstacles to bypass. This hubris invites backlash. When one branch feels disrespected, it asserts power more forcefully. Accumulating impeachment resolutions, though unsuccessful, build a narrative of unfitness. Each filing, from April's comprehensive articles to December's focus charges, chips away at legitimacy. Even blocked votes generate headlines, forcing defenses that distract from policy agendas. Looking ahead, 2026 midterms loom as a referendum. If contempt proceedings advance, Democrats will weaponize them. Trump's AG fined for hiding Epstein secrets, vote for accountability. Republicans defending such actions risk alienating moderates who prioritize transparency. Ultimately, this segment illustrates how bipartisan efforts and dusty powers like inherent contempt could transform threats into actions, tightening the noose around the administration. In this concluding segment, we synthesize the dual pressures from Congress and courts, project potential outcomes, and reflect on the broader stakes for Trump's presidency and American democracy. The dual squeeze metaphor captures the converging forces: legislative contempt and impeachment threats over Epstein, judicial contempt findings on deportations. These aren't coordinated but synergistic, amplifying each other's impact. Congress, through Khanna and Massie, drafts papers that could lead to Bondi's impeachment or fines jail via inherent contempt. Independently, Boasberg's probable cause sets the stage for sanctions against deportation officials. This pincer isolates the administration, as evading one branch doesn't neutralize the other. Trump's GOP House majority shields against impeachment success, but inherent contempt bypasses that. It's a House-only power, potentially passable with bipartisan votes. Courts, meanwhile, operate on evidence, not politics. Boasberg's ruling stands unless overturned, and the temporary appeals halt doesn't erase the jeopardy. Bondi's predicament exemplifies personal risks in Trump's orbit. As AG, she's the face of DOJ defiance, but decisions likely stem from White House directives. If fined or jailed, it exposes Trump's influence, prompting questions: pardon her, admitting guilt? Let her fall, appearing disloyal? Either erodes his strongman image. Bipartisanship's role can't be overstated. Khanna-Massie alliance signals Epstein transparency as a non-partisan imperative, making dismissal harder. If more Republicans join, it could fracture GOP unity, especially amid public demand for files revealing elite connections. Inherent Contempt's revival would be historic, signaling Congress's refusal to be marginalized. Daily fines could force compliance. Persistent refusal might lead to detention, a dramatic escalation unseen in decades. Boasberg's case warns of broader dangers. Unchecked executive could erode separations of powers. His citizen-targeting concern evokes dystopian fears, resonating in post-January 6 America. Defiance patterns, ignoring laws, orders, self-sabotage. Compliance would avert crises. Instead, escalation invites nuclear options. Impeachment accumulations, though failed, historicize abuses, aiding future accountability or campaigns. 2026 implications. Materialized contempts become electoral liabilities, portraying lawlessness. Democrats gain. Republicans defend untenable positions. Future paths. Bondi complies, diffusing, or defiance persists, triggering contempt. Appeals resume Boasberg probe. More impeachments. Outcomes hinge on will. Frustrations suggest activation likely. In reflection, Trump evades personal jail, but his team doesn't. Squeezed admin pressures him indirectly. Defiant strategy backfires. Empowering branches. Filed papers, drafted threats, made findings build to potential realities. The story, presidency under siege, branches forging team consequences, squeezing Sand's direct hit. When branches tire of defiance, powers activate, threats become fates. That's the escalating jail reality for Trump's circle, with profound democratic implications.